Hi, ever wonder what it's like to work another profession or live in the underworld? Listen to unsuspecting riders give a 10 to 15 minute personal masterclass as I spontaneously interview them as they enter my taxi. I'm your host, Simon Rushton, and this is Taxi Chronicles. Morning. Yes, we're back with another rider, another episode. Today we have a lovely lady. She's going to tell us about what it takes to be a vet and the process and the love. So nice to have you here today, Ashley. So first of all, what made you make the decision why you wanted to be a veterinarian?
I'm veterinary nurse, so not quite vet.
Okay.
I've loved animals. I've had animals since I was really young as well, and my own when I was 6, and my parents had animals before that, so they've always been around me.
What was your first pet?
My first pet was a pair of hamsters that turned into about 100 hamsters.
Oh, is it? Okay. So what did you do with their children then?
We traded them into pet shops for things that we needed, like food and sawdust.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's not a bad idea, isn't it? I'm not sure if they would be happy about it. Do they become attached to their children? I heard that you have to separate hamsters from their children.
Yeah. They breed very young as well, which is how we got caught out. We thought we had two females, and one of them turned out to be male.
Okay.
And then they bred, and then that's how we ended up with so many hamsters.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to try and separate them out into groups so that they're still social. Because if you separate them out one by one, they become quite aggressive with other hamsters if you try and reintroduce them later on.
Oh, okay. So you've always got to keep them in company.
Yeah, at least 3.
So they're not that spoiled single child syndrome.
Oh, very much.
Okay. So you made, obviously, what was the route that you took to becoming where you are today?
I applied for quite a few apprenticeships. I went for interviews, but I didn't actually get them. So I started in Potter's Bar on a veterinary nursing assistant course.
Mm-hmm.
It took me about a year and a half to pass the course. Lots of practicals, lots of
Is it like
normal work.
A-level sitting in Guilds MVQ?
Pretty much, yeah. You get placed in a practice. I was placed in PDSA Croydon charity. You do a lot of your practical, like you learn a lot on the job. Okay. And 2 days a week you go up to the college for sitting in a classroom and being taught out of a book.
Okay, so really and truly that's kind of the best way to go then, the experience.
There's lots of different ways you can go.
That
was a good way for me. You can do work experience and be promoted through the practice that you're at.
Yeah.
Offered jobs and things from your time in placement. You can start online. They have online courses, so that you don't have to travel all the way to the practice. And there's just quite a few options. I went for one that was suitable for me.
Yeah. And they're all called veterinary nurses?
No, so we have 2 kinds of nursing assistants. The student nursing assistants who are training to be veterinary nurses, and nursing assistants who manage other things, mostly cleaning, lots of animal handling. The difference is you don't run labs and you don't take blood samples. That's the only difference between the 2 qualifications.
So what I said at the beginning about being a vet, is that the person who kind of does surgery?
Yes.
Okay. Can you work your way to becoming a vet based on what you studied?
You can. It does take so many years to manage it though.
Really?
And it's a completely separate course. So you can go from nursing to vet. A lot of people just stick with veterinary nursing assistant and veterinary nursing.
Okay. So, can a vet work on any animal?
Yes.
So from a horse or an elephant down to a mouse?
Yes.
Okay.
There's lots of different training for each species, but yes.
And do you, at your level, do you have different training for different species as well?
I have training for small animal, so nothing exotic like birds or farm animals, but I can hold animals. I can help give them medication.
What's the most common problem you see with animals that come into your place?
Oh, there's just too many. Lots of them where dogs eat things they shouldn't.
Oh, is it?
Cat fights and birds that pull out their own feathers in stress.
Oh, because they want to fly around and be happy.
You know, a lot of things can stress birds if they don't have a... Birds are very intelligent, so if you're not there during the day, they get very stressed because they get very bored. You have to give them sensory games to play with, so like working out how to get to their food if you set up a little trap for them, so they have to work to get their meals. They quite enjoy that. If they're very bored and they get very stressed, they start self-mutilating. They pull out their own feathers.
These are like parrots or
Parrots, budgies. If you're hand-rearing pigeons, they do it as well.
people raise pigeons.
Yep, pigeons are also very intelligent. People hand raise birds that get lost if their tree gets cut down and their nest falls, if they've fallen out of their nest and people walk past and mum won't come back to the bird, to her baby if it's on the floor and there's lots of people around. She'll have to leave her baby and start again, which isn't very fair, but...
Oh. Okay. So, I've never been a fan of zoos because I believe animals should be left to be in the wild. They're much more happier in my eyes. From what you're speaking about, would you say that I have a point there?
There's lots of pros and cons to zoos. Quite often they're there for their own safety. The animals that are there from the wild are due to illness or injury, that they've been kept in captivity to rehabilitate them, and they're no longer suitable to survive in the wild on their own without help. So I do agree with that. I don't agree with them being kept just to show off if you haven't mimicked their environment properly, and it's not quite the same as being out in the wild, but unfortunately the wild can be quite mean.
Yeah, that's a natural order, you could say. I understand when they save like a rhino that someone's chopped its tusk off a horn or whatever it has, the pointy thing in that respect. But I just think when you like take a lion and put him in the English countryside in the safari, it's like, wait a minute, he's meant to be in a hot country.
Yeah.
He's meant to be able to run and be happy.
Yeah, sometimes they're there for saving the species as well. So the wild can be quite cruel, and quite often a lot of the animals don't survive even in their natural habitat, and to avoid them going extinct, zoos take them and they swap them between zoos as well during breeding programs.
Do you is there any animals that we can't work on, or it's like just too, like, I suppose a whale, you wouldn't work on a whale, but is there any animals that aren't that big? Because you wouldn't work on a whale, would you?
We wouldn't. No, you'd have to do a specific degree with marine biology to...
No, I was just thinking human beings in general, we wouldn't work on the whales. They're too big, aren't they? They're like... Correct me if I'm wrong here.
I don't think we'd be able to get anywhere close to them. I know they come up to see people in the water, but they don't stick around long enough. It's not something that anyone would usually do. There are vets that will work on exotics like reptiles and fish. Fish have surgical procedures as well.
Really?
They do. Mostly to remove benign tumours that grow off their skin.
What's that?
It's a tumour that has no roots to it, so it's an awkward lump that comes up on their skin, and you just remove the lump and stitch them back together, and it doesn't grow any other abnormal cells.
Right. If you take a fish out of water, it dies. So how do you keep the fish alive? And what do you do? Give it a drip?
No,
It's got no vein, has it?
Fish don't survive very long out of water. They can survive a couple of minutes at a time. There are certain drugs that you can give them to slow their breathing and their heart rate down. and then you perform the surgery. I'm not quite sure of the specifics, but I know it has been done before.
So you got like 5 minutes instead of 2 minutes?
Less than 5 minutes in most cases,
So
before you have to keep wetting them and giving them more oxygen, and then you've got some more time after that.
So it sounds like a lot of work just to save an animal.
It is a lot of work, but it is worth it. Some people have cats and dogs as their small furry babies, and other people, they really enjoy having fish. And
do you have any animals, pets?
I have a ridiculous amount of animals.
Okay. So in the day, like my aunt, she's got a dog, and I always say she doesn't. In my eyes, I don't understand why she has a dog, because you're at work most of the day. You don't take him for a walk, a really good walk, like twice a day. I was told you're meant to take him twice a day. What she does, she just lets him go walk around in the garden or on the green somewhere. But it's not really like a get out, happy, play, be happy you're alive walk. So I'm not for. So I don't understand why some people have pets unless they're for a purpose. Like if you have a dog because you're trying to protect your land, or a sheep farmer, do you see what I mean? But if you just got a dog that's kind of closed up in a small flat, it's like, why would you do that?
You have animals for lots of different reasons. The main reason's comfort. You can have them for breeding, so to make money on the babies when they're old enough. You can have them as protection if you have guard dogs or a really aggressive cat that doesn't like the postman. There's a lot of reasons to have dogs. As long as they get the exercise that they need for their particular breed, you can have any kind of animal, as long as you're taking care of it and it's getting what it needs. So if he does play in the garden, if he plays for a really long time and he's had a lot of exercise and energy, that's the same as, taking him for a walk.
Oh, in the field. Okay, I see it. Yeah, because sometimes that dog, I looked at him, he does just get tired. He does this thing, he's got this ball that you can't pop. I've never seen anything like it. It's like a hard rubber ball. And they try and bite him. He's got a big kind of fangs. Is it fangs? I don't know what a dog has. And then he just dribble. He's tired. But he doesn't want to let go of the ball.
Oh, they don't part with anything.
And then he wants to chase the ball again, but he's still tired. Yeah, and it's just, I'm not, like I said, I'm not an animal person, so I was a bit like watching the David Attenborough nature show, watching the dog. Like, what's he doing now? What's he doing this? Okay. So what does the future hold for you in the vet industry?
I don't know really. I love my job, so I'm not going to leave my job for quite a while yet. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to keep going. I work at lots of different branches, so the day is never boring. It's never the same. Mm-hmm.
What are the traits that someone needs to be in the vet industry? Probably not mine. What are the traits that you would say someone needs?
You need to love animals. That's the biggest part of it. You need to be good at communication. You need to work hard. You need to put in a lot of effort, and you need to stick with it. Some days are absolutely awful with what happens, and you just have to keep going, because there's always a good day after it. If you stop at the bad days, you won't get very far in a veterinary profession.
So when you say some days are absolutely awful, are you referring to days like where people have mistreated animals and they've come in?
Mistreated, or if there's been a really bad accident. It's...
Like what kind of accident?
Like cats quite often get hit by cars.
Oh, is that it? Oh, okay, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Sometimes dogs do. Sometimes there's a really aggressive dog that protects its toys or its owner, and they fight, and it's quite bloody, and it's not.
So
it's
a dog
not pleasant
protects
to work
its toys
with.
from its owner?
No, when they protect their toys in parks and things as well. Like, some dogs don't like other dogs. That's just how they're made. And dog fights aren't particularly pleasant. Cat fights aren't pleasant. Seeing them when they've been hit by a car for whatever reason isn't pleasant. If they've fallen off something and they're in pain, it's not nice.
Most of the time when dogs or animals have been injured or hit by cars, can you repair them or do you just put them down?
We do everything we can to keep them going. It depends on what type of injury they've sustained. If it wasn't a very hard collision, sometimes a few broken bones are all they have and they're in hospital, they're on fluids, they have pain medication, sometimes they need surgery.
If a dog, for instance, breaks its leg, is it like, I think humans are in a cast for 6 or 9 months to fix their leg or something. Is it the same with animals?
Most bones, either human or animal, will heal in 10 to 12 weeks.
Oh, is it?
As long as they're kept stable, as long as they have time to fuse together again.
Mm-hmm.
With animals, if the break is really bad, we sometimes put surgical pins in to hold the bone in place, because dogs aren't like us, they can't stay off of their feet. And then you wrap them up in a cast and a splint just to keep the leg as stable as you can. Sometimes it takes longer if they're big dogs and they're heavy and they have to put a lot of weight on those limbs. Small dogs do tend to heal quite quickly. Owners also tend to pick the small dogs up and carry them. So it's 10 to 12 weeks is usually the go-to for broken bones.
Is like a vet, is it like part NHS, where if you find a wounded dog or something, you can bring it in and it's not my dog, but I just thought you might want to fix it? Or is it like, if you bring him into a vet, it's always, you have to pay?
If we can find the owner of the dog via microchip in the back of their neck, then we contact the owner and find out what we can do for that dog. If they're not owned by anyone, we'll do the best we can to patch them up if we can save them or help them, and then they go off to charities that rely on donations from people for extra support for strays and animals that are unclaimed.
So you help fix the dog up free of charge?
Usually, yes. Quite often people leave a donation with the animal as well, to give to the charity. Charities tend to take most of the injured and sick animals.
Battersea Dog Zone.
Things like Battersea or any other charity as well. Battersea's the more well-known one, but there are lots all over.
I only knew about Battersea Dog Zone. Okay, that's interesting. Last 2 questions. What have you learned over your time in this industry that you wish you knew when you started?
I wish I knew how bad some of the days could get, and they extend into quite a few days, possibly a week, where you have not awful days, but days that really drag you down. I wish I knew about that before I started. Because some things you see and you'd never unsee them.
Okay, I see what you mean. So in the military we say the medic sees everybody's firefight. Do you see what I mean? Everybody's battle that happens out there, because we're all different soldiers and fighting different battles, but the medic ends up seeing it all.
Yeah.
So they get kind of traumatized the most and the quickest.
Yeah.
In certain respect. Yeah. Do you ever regret doing your industry?
No. Never.
Okay, that's good. And the last question is, what's the impact you want to have in the world?
I just want everyone, human or animal, to be able to live in peace. Like, no cruelty, no pain, no suffering. I want to be part of a world that helps mend that.
Well, you got a constant battle on your hands.
I do, but it's worth it at the end.
Yeah, but we need people like you to patch things up. But thanks a lot for that. Much appreciated, and we wish you well. We hope you liked that interview. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to get the latest daily episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economy and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources? Then listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you will Here, real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m.